in the stomach. Anyway, so yeah, they're free. It's my way of giving back to you guys. Wait, how many people are here for the first time? All right, you guys need to leave so that the people that have been supporting me in my entire career get the first chance. No offense, seriously, because I don't know if you guys are going to be back next year. You're probably here because you saw one movie and you're like, oh, I'm a comic book fan. I want the people. Wait, how many? You guys took that very personally, so I feel like most of you are in that kind, which is fine. Which is fine. We call you guys fan-ish. But anyway, I support and love you all, whether you bought one book or have been buying books my entire 30-year career in comics. But I love the people that have been buying comics for 30 years. A little bit more. I have a lot of kids, so that's what I told them. I love you all. Except that one. I like him a little more. Anyway, so the thing is, I actually have one ready to go because I did this at a Wildstorm panel, and the security, I don't know if I should use the word Nazi, but the security people were so adamant that we leave the room, they shut it down, so I didn't have a chance to give it away. So I'll put that at the end. Because if my sketch doesn't look as good as this one, then it will look bad. So I don't want to feel like I'm jipping you guys. All right, so, all right. Do your badges have ID numbers on them? Your driver's licenses, right?
Oh, the wristbands.
The wristbands do.
Not everybody has a wristband.
Okay.
Not everyone has wristbands? How'd you get it?
01457.
All right, we'll go with driver's license. Does that sound fair? There's always someone that says, I take public. All right, so this is I usually kind of just draw like a head. I'll just draw a Batman head, but so you start with an egg. Everyone draws an egg, right? And then put a cylinder underneath. That's the neck.
Times because they used to draw everything flat, like the Egyptian hieroglyphic. And then some guy, I can't remember who, but maybe it's Tommy Farrell. Somebody if I turn it, I can create the illusion of 3D space on a 2D plane, right? That's the trick of what we're doing. It's kind of like, it's magic. It's just, there's nothing here. I'm going to create this illusion of something that exists, and you're going to believe it. So how do I make you believe it? And part of it is called foreshortening, and that's mathematically adjusting the length of lines to create the illusion of depth. And then the other are little tricks, which I'll kind of demonstrate, that basically trick the eye into seeing things that aren't there. Okay? Because our minds are kind of pre-programmed to look for patterns and shapes, right? You notice if you look in the clouds, you'll see creatures even though you weren't intending to. And that's because our mind is constantly scanning our environment, trying to figure out where the prey is in the jungle, right? If you think about it, way back when we were probably prey to predators, like dinosaurs, wasn't dinosaurs. We were probably prey to, I don't know, robots or something back in the ancient times, right? So we had to look out for the robots, and as they move, you have to look for the shape, the silhouette, right? So we're already pre-programmed to look for those shapes. So that we can play upon that primordial kind of recognition system in our heads and create lines and shapes that basically make the mind go like, oh, there's a robot there, I gotta be careful there. So here's one eye, and this eye over here, but it's a little narrower because it's further back in space. You do a nose, and you'll see one nostril, and on the lips, you'll see more of that upper lip over here. It's a subtle difference, and that subtle difference makes a huge difference. And then what we're going to do to actually create shapes, rather than draw the objects, we're going to draw the shadows underneath the objects. And that's kind of what that pattern recognition thing that I was talking about, that's what it is. So if you look at, do you have any board paper? No. So rather you can draw like a blade of grass like that, and you can keep drawing blades of grass, right? Or you can draw, maybe no, you know what? You can draw hairs, right? Hairs on the head. Or you can draw kind of massive clumps of hair and do shadows underneath the biggest clumps. And then maybe put a couple strands that kind of indicate to the brain that it's hair, give it some texture, right? And a lot of times by adding those shadows, it's the same way if there's a ball here, there's a shadow inside of the ball. and cast shadow. And if you get pretty close, right, if you kind of squint, right, it looks like a 3D object, you know? Right? Even though it's just really a reverse C with like a circle next to it. See that? So I'm going to take that and I'm going to make it a little more complex. So if we do a nose, you're going to just see the shadow underneath the nose. Do you see a nose? So the nostril, right? Eyebrow, eye. That thing that, I don't know what it's called, but there's like a bump underneath your eye. The cheek, the lip, lips, lower lip, chin, right? Start here. Right. So I usually start with the eyebrows, because they have most of the expression. If you ever do a stick figure or an emoji, like it's all about the eyebrows and the mouth. So I start with the eyes just because they can convey so much. And then you put one eyeball in there and the other eyeball. And in my mind, like this length here is longer than this length, but just in a subtle way. So the same thing I did here with this face. Just a tear up or something. The nose is here, top is over here. That exists over his face. Okay. So if you took a net and cast it over this 3D face, it would fall and undulate based on the shapes that it fell on, right? Right? Yes. Sorry. So that line there kind of represents one of those mesh lines. And so a lot of the lines that you see that might look like just weird random lines on a face are actually mesh lines that I've decided to keep in because they kind of subliminally or subconsciously trick your mind into seeing a plane that doesn't exist, and I'm trying to create the illusion of that plane, right? So side of the head, the ear, so that top of the ear matches up here. So something like this, I'm pretty loose with this. It's what a 0.5 micron. It's a permanent marker. Because I know I'm going to go back in with a thicker marker and kind of beef up the lines. The Adam's apple is here. The two tendons that come really from the bottom part of your ear down to your clavicle. Excuse me? Yes. There you go. There. The prize medical student son. Oh, yeah, no, sorry. My parents they wanted to adopt you. Anyway, so they're like, oh my gosh, that's like music to our ears. And so I thought, like, if I just learned all the muscles, I could figure out how to draw. But it's actually not a great way of learning because you're really studying the forest for the trees, right? Or you're studying the trees instead of the forest, right? So you know all the different trees, but you can't really describe the forest. And it's really the bulk of the muscles and the way they interact with one another that creates the human form. So I never bothered to learn the actual names of the muscles. In fact, a lot of times I just create or add muscles, but I keep the ones that most people actually have so that you know that it's a muscle. Then I add these fake muscles because it's kind of cool, like, oh, that's a body I could achieve if I worked out hard. We'll never achieve that body because those muscles don't exist. Right? So, but they look cool, and that's part of the game, right? So it's not about drawing reality; it's kind of drawing a heightened sense of reality. So, did my parents what? Criticize me?
For drawing in ways that are not anatomical.
No, they're truth be told, they're huge fans of mine now. Yeah, thanks. I paid him back for college. And without interest though. Horrible son. Anyway, and then on the 25th anniversary, I sent them to Europe. But they returned, so it was makes a blessing, whatever. I don't know. But yeah. So and then they got a subscription to Wizard magazine. And that was, people have heard the story before, but that was like the beginning. Like it kind of frayed our relationship because I come over for Thanksgiving dinner and they'd be like, "Oh, hey, what happened? Why are you number 2?" This is the way my mom talks. How hard is this? Like, and so they were just on me, like, "Why aren't you number 1?" Like, so it was always about achievement, even if I chose not to do what they wanted to do. And then they would have piles of books, like, "Oh, these are the nurses from the ER," guys like him, and like, "Oh, could you sign them for, you know?" And so while we're waiting, right? So with this one, I'm going to actually take 2 different things with different sketches. I think of this one, I'm going to take some ink. This is what I use here, this Ultra Draw. It comes in these little photograph pens, which have metal nibs. I don't like those nibs too much, but I do like their ink because it's very portable. And you can actually, it's a little tip, so you can actually pour it onto the art in a controlled way, like as opposed to larger content and stuff. So, do it? Yes. Anyway, so I don't know. I'm doing it good. This is just a crappy brush. Sorry. So I'm going to just go ahead and play some shadows. I'm going to say the light source is over here. So basically, that means. And I like this because it's not very regular, so I did some kind of crude shapes. But I like that. I want to keep this sketch kind of loose and free. And so anyway, so I'm just, and it also gives me kind of a real nice dry brush effect, which when you don't load up too much ink onto the brush itself, it allows you to kind of create these nice gray values. Because everything that you draw, when you're drawing with pen and ink, everything's either black or white. So it's very digital. This allows us to give a little bit of an analog feel and do kind of different gray shades. You can create that normally with markers by doing cross-hatching, rendering, that kind of thing, feathering. I kind of like the improvisation of this, but I don't know quite how the one will come out. So even with that, I know in my head, like, okay, that's a little rough. I need to kind of clean that up a little bit. I will look that up. So. And this shape the lights over here. It's going to cast a shadow across the map here.
And then because of your work on Superman, took the Superman logo and turned it into a JL instead of an L.
Cool. Thank you very much.
I just hope it fits.
What are you saying? I have a very big head? Is that what you're saying? A lot of information I have to store here. Hello, yes. All right. Yes.
Well, you said that you don't necessarily recommend medicine.
And you can order these books by George Bridgman, Guide to Life Drawing, and they taught me a lot about kind of like basic muscle shapes and volume and things like that. So I'm going to show you thicker. It's a word.